Hi everybody!
With Tekken 8 Season 2 having all of its characters revealed, it's about time I start speculating as to who will appear in the third season. Since the 8th game is expected to go for 10 years, we can expect Bandai Namco to make some real deep cuts once some of the more popular characters are added to the game. So, let's get to guessing. So for our first character, we're going with one I've been predicting ever since the first season. She has to happen at some stage, as Julia Chang is just one of the most popular characters in the Tekken franchise. I also feel like, logically speaking, she is one of the best choices to kick off a brand new season. Think about it, the second season was really divisive. Bandai are going to want to bring people back in, as a lot will have moved over to things like Street Fighter VI, Guilty Gear Strive, Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, or the latest edition of Virtua Fighter 5. Also, given the new Virtua Fighter is just around the corner, people will be gearing up for that. Meaning Tekken 8 could be the one left holding the bag at the end of the day, even though it's one of the biggest fighting game franchises of all time. It has also had some very dark days in the past, and may be going through it again. It's at this point a game should look to add old favorites to restore faith in the product, because the member berries are always super soothing when a fanbase is pissed off. Also, as a whole, Tekken 8 doesn't have too many characters I would classify as super beginner-friendly. Julia fills that void. However, I don't think she's the most likely character to make the roster in the lead-off spot. I think we might see the devs returning to the whole man-woman dynamic, even though that was broken with both seasons. So we're moving on to another fan favorite. We've had teasers for Big Bob as far back as the game's launch. He's also a super popular character with a rather unique playing style. So this big teddy bear of a character would go a long way to calming the fans down pretty significantly, since it's pretty clear Bandai Namco will be rolling back some of the more controversial changes from Season 2 as time goes on. Basically, the professional Tekken players pushed back a little too hard on how aggressive Season 1 was. So Bandai course-corrected so hard, they ended up alienating the more casual player and the newcomers, who were finding they were loving the new direction the franchise was headed in. Sadly, Tekken 7 was pretty much just Turtle the game, so Tekken 8 was a massive course correction. I'll be honest, I'll be glad to see the backside of the second season, even though the new character, who acts as the capstone for the shit show, does have me interested. The reason I'll be so glad to see the backside of it comes down to being sick and tired of these overgrown crybabies whining about the game 24/7. The Tekken community also hasn't done much to endear itself to me, thanks to some of the skull-fucked numpties who went after me super hard for my reasoning behind wanting special style banned in ranked matches. But I want Bob back, as he's one of the few male characters I actually enjoy using in fighting games, because of his overall speed. It's great if you can hit like a truck, but if you lack speed, I don't want anything to do with that character. It's why I don't typically enjoy grapplers. The ones I've enjoyed are striking-based grapplers, which are a dime a dozen in SNK games. Which is a nice segue to the third character. I have two characters here for a very specific reason. I think it's plausible we see either Terry Bogard or Rock Howard appear as a guest character. This is mostly down to Tekken 7 featuring Rock's father and Terry's main antagonist, Geese Howard. Harada-san has been rather upfront about what puts a guest character up for consideration. Having a recent game is one of those considerations, and since Fatal Fury City of the Wolves just came out this year and will be roughly a year old when Season 3 starts, it's not hard to see why either character might be an option. Also, when you consider the popularity for both characters is probably at an all-time high at this stage, and it starts making a lot of sense, though I imagine a lot of the Tekken veterans will have their panties in a twist over this, since the so-called 2D characters of Tekken 7 pissed off a lot of people for being too good. I can see why, since some of them did have zoning abilities, which don't exactly work the greatest when it comes to 3D fighting games. But I think it'd just be really cool to see either Terry or Rock squaring off against some of the Tekken characters, since we had Geese last time. I feel like Terry makes a bit more sense. Given where Rock is while the events for City of the Wolves are going on. but it'd also be cool to see Rock in the game given he's a hybrid of both Geese and Terry's movesets, which might just edge Rock into the consideration, since Bandai would already have the moveset for Geese programmed, but I do think we could see at least one guest character during Season 3. For the next character prediction, I'll be going with the second Kunimitsu. I will admit she is a personal pick for this list, because I just love her playstyle, which would be unique compared to the rest of the roster. I know we have a few ninjas in the game, but they also tend to incorporate tech into their moveset, making them a different flavor of ninja. So there's room for a more traditional one on the roster. I also feel like she'd be uniquely situated to make use of the heat mechanic compared to a lot of the other options, given her game plan lines up more with how Tekken 8 plays compared to the Tekken 7 cast. It was kind of like how Lydia was a preview for what to expect with Tekken 8 given she was the final character released for the previous entry. I feel like a few characters from the Tekken 7 roster would actually integrate super nicely into the way 8 plays. I'm also including her just to piss off someone who pitched a fit on my last prediction video over my wanting her in the game. Hey, at least I can admit I can be a petty asshole sometimes. The fifth character is yet another personal inclusion just because I really enjoy how Lucky Chloe played in Tekken 7. While Asuka and Lydia will always be my go-to characters in any Tekken game, if I see Lucky Chloe is available, I'm going to pick her, just because I enjoy the gameplay and I love the fact it'll make some of the Tekken veterans salty, because they hate this character. Though it's for this reason, I do not think Bandai will include her in Season 3, since this season will be about playing it safe and rectifying the anger caused by Season 2 not going to plan. So I would say when Lucky Chloe appears, if she does at all, it's going to be towards one of the last seasons, when the sales for Tekken 8 are pretty much stagnant and they know they can't bring in too many old hats or new players, thanks to the game having peaked in terms of sales. It wouldn't surprise me if it's close to that figure already. But again, Lucky Chloe would benefit greatly from the heat system and the fact her gameplay actually feels like button pressing for a rhythm game, and she really is one of the more unique options to include for roster building. I just don't think we realistically see her until at least Season 5 or 6, with 7 or 8 being more likely. This is one prediction I wish I had included for the Season 2 predictions, as I did have an inkling it could have happened, but I wasn't confident enough to include it. But hey, at least I got 2 characters right, maybe I'll get a few more this year. But it honestly wouldn't surprise me if we get more newcomers in future seasons, since season passes are actually a great way to try introducing brand new characters that might otherwise be too risky to include in the base roster. I'm actually really excited to eventually try out the new character when she drops, though I will admit I'm waiting on a sale for Season 2 characters, since I know I'll really only use Anna and maybe the new girl from the 4 characters. But if we do get a new character, what fighting style would you like to see Bamco include? Let me know in the comments. So the next prediction is mostly thanks to the leaks. It doesn't mean it will happen, but we had some of the leaks come to fruition in both Season 1 and Season 2. Given Craig Murdoch was data mined, it's a safe bet he will make it into the game at some stage. It's just a matter of when and not if, so I think he's probably one of my lock-ins for Season 3. If he is revealed to be a character for Season 3, I won't really care, even if I am right, because he isn't a character who interests me. As you can probably see from the gameplay on screen, I am in no ways a good Marduk player, and I never will be. I don't like his fighting style, and I don't like his character design. He literally does nothing for me. I very much doubt this one happens in Season 3, but given the fan demand, I think this is pretty much a case of it happening at some stage. I think we're going to see Tifa Lockhart appearing in Tekken 8, though it wouldn't be all that surprising to me if she ends up being a Season 4 character, since the synergy for marketing might line up better at that stage, since we're either going to get the third part of Final Fantasy VII's Remake Trilogy next year, or the year after. Think about it, we got the first game in 2020 and the second entry in the early stages of last year, so 2026 is maybe just a bit too soon for the third entry, but 2027 is comfortably on the table, as is 2028. Again, Harada-san did indicate marketing synergy plays a factor in guest character decisions, so putting Tifa up as a DLC character when the third and final installment releases just makes a ton of sense to me. So while I do think it's possible she happens in the third season, I don't think it's too probable, given there'd be a real lack of marketing synergy, but I have been proven wrong many times before. My next prediction isn't one I'll pin down to any specific character, so comment who you'd like to see from the Virtua Fighter franchise appear in Tekken 8. I'm just using rather generic footage here to fill out the video, as it could be any of the popular choices if it does happen. It'd make a lot of sense for a Virtua Fighter character to appear as well. Just look at Street Fighter VI and Fatal Fury. While they are rivals, they also marketed each other's games with the DLC. Street Fighter got Terry and Mai for its second season on the market. City of the Wolves has already gotten Ken and will get Chun-Li later on. So it'd just be cool to see a Virtua Fighter character appearing in Tekken 8. You have to remember, Virtua Fighter is basically the grandfather of all 3D fighting games, kind of like how Iggy Pop is the grandfather of all punk bands. So if it wasn't for Virtua Fighter, we wouldn't have Tekken. Simple as that. Also, it's not like we haven't had Virtua Fighter characters appearing in other 3D fighters beforehand. We had a ton of characters in Dead or Alive 5. I had a love-hate relationship with those characters back in the day. So Miguel is the 10th character I could see making the roster. There is some fan demand for him to make an appearance, so he's not outside the realm of possibility. He can also be pretty flashy as a character, and let's face it, Flash would sell the DLC easily. So I think there's a possibility, even if it's slight, that Miguel will show up in some capacity, even if he ends up being a later season character. He's actually a character I'd love to see at some stage too, as I find him super fun to play as. So there's the list. Anyone you feel I left out, and who do you think is most likely to appear? Let me know that in the comments, along with any characters you'd like to see appear too. Maybe check out my Season 2 predictions next and laugh at how wrong I was for the most part. And until next time, keep blazing that trail.